Welcome back to the show. We are talking about running backs coming up next. But before we get to that, I want to remind you guys on Sundays, make sure do not forget to play in our Beat the Betters League with myself and Daniel, who does the other betting show on Fridays. We're playing every single week on FanDuel. It's a $5 entry. You can win money when you beat us. Beat the Betters. It's a great league. It's fun to do. It's fun to play against each other. It's $5. Super easy, super simple. We'll tweet the link at that like in the weekend. We'll probably do it Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, but usually always on Sunday morning. So be on the lookout for that. Make sure that you sign up and to play against us and win some actual money. Other housekeeping notes, if you're not in our Discord, make sure you join the Discord. If you're not in it, shoot us a DM on Twitter. We'll get you access to the Discord, where we have all of our betting plays, all of our fantasy plays, all in one place. More than what we talk about here. You know, we talk about a lot on the show. Daniel talks about a lot, just betting lines and what he's betting on Fridays, on the Friday show. But we have way more bets that come out in the Discord than just that. And it's super valuable to be a part of. So if you're not part of it, let me know. We'll get you part of it. So let's go into our running backs for the week. First one on our list. I'm positive I'm going to say this guy's name wrong. Emeri Demercado. That sounds kind of close. Anyway, look, a guy that is undrafted, untested. I only put him on this list because it is an extremely good value option. $5,900 is like extremely good value for a type of guy who's going to get the touches that he's going to get. You know, he could get upwards of 10 to 15 touches just because the Cardinals don't have anybody to run the football. James Conner is not there. Like, he's one of those situations where there is nothing else. And so while he may not be great, and we don't even know what he is, there is just nothing else there. And so he might get, a garbage time touchdown. Like he might just get things just based on the amount of volume or just amount of the opportunity and volume he's going to get. So I don't know anything about him. I'm not going to pretend like I do, but I like the matchup and I like the workload. I like him as a tournament option. If you can I like the idea of him to stack other players in your lineup that are very good and could possibly cover if he doesn't do well, right? Again, at 5,900, we always talk about price per point here, and that's not a lot. We don't have to have a lot for him to cover that value. And so you be able to use him in your lineup to get someone else that is better than him in terms of running back, wide receiver, quarterback, and those other slot areas who are, like we talked about, a Patrick Mahomes who is $9,500. Maybe that's what you want, and you need something wiggle room in terms of running back. He's a guy who's going to probably have a lot of opportunity this week. We'll see how he does, and he may never show up on this list ever again. I don't foresee him being, an excellent running back, but you never know. He could be great this week and could have 30 points. It's an entirely risk-reward situation, and how much you want to risk and how much you think you're going to get back from a guy who's never really seen this type of opportunity. Next up on our list, Raheem Mostert. You guys know my love for Raheem Mostert. I think he's great at what he does. And the first couple of weeks, he was amazing. Kind of fell off because of Etienne. Now that Devon is hurt, there is no really workload to share for Raheem Mostert. So I think he's going to go back to week 1, week 2, where he should probably he was having 10, he had 18 carries one week, I think 11 carries the next week. And then Devon Etienne kind of showed up and really cut his workload in half pretty much. So I think with Devon Etienne going to share the backfield this week, Raheem Mostert is a guy that could see at least 15, 16, 17 attempts in this game. And obviously we all know the Miami offense is absolute stud. So at $8,500, I will have Raheem Mostert probably everywhere that I can, because Carolina is the 26th worst rushing defense in the league. So they allow the 26th most rushing yards. So they're going to get chances on the ground through that Carolina defense. Raheem Mostert will. So I think he'll turn it into opportunity. I think he will be a monster this week. Count Raheem Mostert as an absolute lock. So next up on our list is Travis Etienne, a guy that I think is extremely undervalued as a guy that is got a lot of attempts. We talked about that earlier, a lot of opportunity. 26 attempts last week, 136 yards, 2 touchdowns, 20 attempts the week before that, 19 of the week before that. So those 2 weeks prior to last week didn't turn in the same amount of fantasy points, but He's got the opportunity, and that is what really, really matters. Is he's got the opportunity to turn those into fantasy points with the amount of attempts that he's had. He's very, very good. He's a very good runner, and so Colts 29th in the league in rushing attempts allowed. So they're gonna get the opportunity. He's gonna get it. The Jaguars are gonna get it. Maybe stack him with Trevor Lawrence. Put those in a pair together at 7,700. I think he might be one of my value plays of the week. Like, he's a guy that I think could really, really outplay his value and very, very underrated. Next up on our list, guy just showed up on the radar, Alvin Kamara. We all know him. We all love him. Can be good, has been good for a long time. And $7,500 for Alvin Kamara. Great value for him. Still coming back, but he's outplayed his value the last 2 weeks. He's going against the Houston defense, middle of the road defense, but he doesn't have to have much opportunity to pay that value back. So he had 22 attempts last week, 80 yards. I think he had 11 the first week, if I'm not mistaken. I don't have it written down, but I think he had 11 the first week and 22 attempts last week. I think the 22 attempts on 80 yards is more like what his normal workload's going to be than the 11 attempts on 45 yards he had the first week. That was we're getting him back going. And this is Alvin Kamara's show. And now that he's back, he will run it as much times as we feel like he can run it. So I love Alvin Kamara this week. Again, $7,500, great value for someone that is still probably just coming back. So his value is probably a little depressed than it probably should be. Next up on the list, Kenneth Walker, $8,400. Bengals are the second worst team in the league in rushing yards allowed. He's had over 17 attempts in the last 3 games and a touchdown in every single one of them. I don't know if I need to say any more about Kenneth Walker other than that. He's set up for a prime matchup this week. $8,400 is kind of high, but I think he'll outplay that value, and he will. The only thing I'm worried about here is it just becoming a blowout and him not being able to play the whole game and actually not being a competitive game where they need him to run the ball, they need him to score the ball. That's really what I'm more worried about in this game than him actually paying the value back. So I think he'll still do well. Even if it's a blowout, I think he'll do enough to get them to the blowout to where it won't matter if he doesn't play the whole fourth quarter, whatever it is for the Bengals. So last person on our list for the running backs, DeAndre Swift, the other Swift that we're talked about so much the last few weeks. Not the Taylor, the DeAndre. $7,200 for DeAndre is a great price tag for him. Jets, 29th in the league in rushing yards allowed. He's had 15-plus attempts in the last 3 games. He's already had a game with 28-plus attempts this year, which is absolutely crazy. In that game, he went for 175 yards. So he can do it. Obviously, we know he can do it. But the offensive line can also do it. And I think that's what's key here. He's going against a terrible defense with lots of opportunity at a low price tag. And those 3 things are the things I look for all the time. I think we all look for in daily fantasy is, okay, he has all 3 of those things, then that could be extremely good in daily fantasy football. So DeAndre Swift is our guy to round out the list. I do want to say one thing about Christian McCaffrey before we move on. Guy that we talked about last week was 10,700, and I told everybody I was probably going to fade him because of that price tag. I just think he couldn't get there. I mean, the price is just too high. He's still at 10,300, and I still think the price is too high. He's not on this list, but I just wanted to say that about him. I still think if you're thinking about Christian McCaffrey, yes, he's a beast, but the price tag is so high. It would take so much for him to pay that value back that I think you have to fade him in all of your lineups and go with some of our other guys mentioned here. So let's take another quick break. We'll be right back and talk about our running backs, wide receivers on the other side.